Have you ever felt overwhelmed by choices? That slow, creeping sensation where each decision, no matter how trivial, presses against your chest like a quiet weight. You pause, hesitate, glance at the options laid before you, not with excitement, but with a growing sense of dread. And yet, isn't this supposed to be your freedom? You're told that having more is the path to happiness, more success, more things, more validation from a world that never seems satisfied. But what if everything you've been taught about abundance is a lie wrapped in good intentions? What if the very act of having more is what's holding you back? The world encourages you to chase relentlessly, to seek, to hoard, to consume. The more you accumulate, the more complete you're supposed to feel. But the reality for many like you is quite the opposite. The more you have, the more fragmented you may become. The spaces that once held clarity become cluttered. The time you thought you saved is devoured by distractions, and the joy you hope to capture slips quietly through your fingers. The pursuit of more often leads not to freedom, but to fatigue. It drains you slowly, almost imperceptibly, until all that remains is a constant hum of stress in the background of your life. That kind of noise is not always loud. Sometimes it's silent, like static in your mind that never quite lets you rest. Seneca, with chilling precision, once said, "The more you have, the more you are occupied, and the less you give." He understood the burden of abundance. The paradox is evident. As you gain more, you lose more of yourself, more of your peace, more of your capacity to truly live. So, the next time you feel trapped by the seemingly endless array of choices, stop and breathe. Ask yourself, what if the key to peace was not in having everything, but in letting most of it go? What if the true path to freedom lies not in gaining, but in releasing? In the maze of constant decisions, you are often led to believe that the more options you have, the better your life will be. From the simplest choices, like what to eat for dinner, to the weightier ones, like which career path to follow or where to live, your mind is constantly occupied with endless possibilities. The noise of this perpetual selection process grows louder every day. Yet, despite having so many choices, many of you find yourselves feeling more lost and overwhelmed than liberated. You've been taught that more is better, more wealth, more material possessions, more experiences. You've bought into the lie that fulfillment comes from accumulation. But does it? Look at the lives of those who seem to have it all. The celebrities, the successful entrepreneurs, the influencers. They're not immune to dissatisfaction, to the aching void that wealth and choice can't fill. Instead, they often seek more, unable to satisfy their hunger, caught in the trap of endless striving. What if, just for a moment, you paused? What if you let go of the need to chase everything that promises happiness, everything that tells you should want more? What if you turned inward and asked yourselves what you truly need? Would the silence scare you? Would the stillness feel like absence? Or would it feel like truth finally whispering after years of being drowned out? You see, most of what you chase isn't even yours. It's borrowed desire, planted by others, sold to you as essential, disguised as purpose. You carry the weight of expectations that were never born in your soul. You run after illusions, hoping they'll stitch the emptiness closed. But all they do is stretch it wider. When you pause, you disrupt the noise. You begin to hear the questions beneath the questions, not what do I want to have, but who do I want to become? Not what should I do next, but what will make me whole if nothing else is added? The answers won't come from the world outside. They never have. They live quietly within you, waiting for the moment you finally stop running and listen. When you look at your life, what do you see? Do you see a collection of choices made in search of something that once attained, you believed would finally bring you peace? But when that choice is made, when you've accumulated what you thought would fill the emptiness, is it really enough? Or do you find yourselves wanting more, ever chasing, never reaching? It's in this constant chase that you become ensnared. The pressure to have it all, to make the right choices, becomes all-consuming. You think that by amassing more, you are gaining control over your life, But in reality, you are losing yourselves to an endless cycle of decision-making, constantly shifting your focus from one option to the next, always wondering if there's something better just around the corner. This is where the beauty of simplicity shines through. When you let go of the need for excess, you create space for the things that truly matter. Instead of filling every moment with distractions, with decisions, you allow yourselves the freedom to focus on the present. You discover that peace doesn't come from an abundance of options, but from knowing what you need and learning to embrace it fully. Imagine a life where you are not constantly bombarded by the pressure of choosing, where your mind is not tangled in the web of endless options, but instead you have clarity and focus. A life where you are not burdened by the need to possess more, but instead you are free to live with intention, with purpose. This is not a life of deprivation, it is a life of freedom. By releasing the unnecessary, by letting go of the excess, you make room for what truly matters. You free yourselves from the constant burden of choice, and in doing so you find peace. So, the next time you feel the weight of all the choices pressing down on you, take a step back, breathe, reflect. Ask yourself, what if peace isn't found in acquiring more, but in choosing less? What if the real path to freedom lies not in the accumulation of possessions or experiences, but in the liberation of releasing what no longer serves you? The answer is simple, yet profound. It's not about having everything, it's about having enough. And sometimes enough is simply letting go. There was once a man, though not remarkable in any grand way, whose life was filled to the brim, not with people, or love, or meaning, but with things. His home resembled a storage unit more than a sanctuary. Each room held the ghosts of old ambitions, unopened packages, shelves burdened by unread books, gadgets long outdated yet never discarded. His life looked full from the outside, yet each evening, as silence returned to the halls of his house, he was left to reckon with an emptiness that echoed far louder than any sound. He had everything he thought he wanted, but he had lost himself somewhere along the way. That man could be you. In modern life, you're taught that to be successful, you must be surrounded by proof, by evidence of ambition, taste, the ability to gather. But no one tells you what happens when that gathering never stops. No one warns you about the suffocating weight of too many choices. There's a reason why you feel anxious while scrolling through endless catalogs, or why decision fatigue has become your quiet companion. Because your mind was never built to process this much, this many paths, this many options, this many voices telling you who you should be. You're living in a world with too many tabs open, mentally, emotionally, and digitally. And somewhere beneath the surface of all that noise is a longing, a quiet yearning to be still, to be sure, to be free. It begins innocently enough. A few small upgrades here, a desire to stay relevant there. Slowly, without even noticing, your life begins to fill. First the closet, then the calendar, then the mind. Until one day, you wake up and realize you no longer remember what you actually need, only what you're told you're supposed to want. The problem isn't desire, it's a distraction. And it is this distraction, this constant tug toward everything and nothing, that leaves you disconnected from yourself. The more you seek, the more restless you become. Because as long as there's another option out there, a better version of what you already have, you feel like you're never truly enough. You buy into the illusion that more equals better. More friends means more love. More possessions means more status. More success means more worth. But in chasing those shadows, you lose the light of your own presence. You become haunted by the choices you never made, the roads you never took, the lives you could have lived if only you had chosen differently. This is the cost of too many choices, regret wrapped in indecision. Imagine instead a room, bare but not cold, simple but not lacking. In this room, everything serves a purpose. There is space to breathe, to think, to just be. In such a space, your mind settles, your heart softens, and your soul, long neglected, begins to speak again. This is what minimalism whispers to you, not as a trend, but as a philosophy. It tells you that you can live with less and feel more. That simplicity is not scarcity, but clarity. That when you stop filling every corner of your life, you create room for the things that truly matter. Things like peace, connection, meaning. Because in the quiet, you begin to hear the truth. What you were looking for and more was never outside of you. You need not fear simplicity. What you should fear is distraction masquerading as progress. Fear the comfort of clutter, the illusion of productivity, the addiction to comparison. Fear the silent erosion of your values beneath the weight of convenience. When every day becomes a race to choose, to achieve, to consume, you lose the sacredness of the present. You begin to live not for yourself, but for the image you believe you must maintain. But there is another way, a quieter way, a darker path perhaps, but one where shadows teach you more than the light ever could. This path asks you to let go, to strip away the layers, to strip naked under the cold light of your own truth and say, what do I truly need to be whole? The answer is rarely more. Let that sink in. Not because it's poetic, but because it is a warning. A soft echo from a man who lived centuries ago but somehow knew the contours of your modern fatigue. You imagine that each new acquisition means that you are constructing something, security, comfort, power. But look closer. Each new possession costs you something, a fraction of your attention, a corner of your peace, a piece of your time. Everything you hold tightly to say softly, you owe me now. And without knowing it, you fill your days with things that don't love you back. You become the custodian of clutter, physical, mental, emotional. You are buffered, but not buffered. Busy, but not fulfilled. You are abundant in distractions, but deficient in presence. Seneca saw this clearly. He lived among men who thought of greatness as largesse, but he opted for a different type of wealth, the one that isn't counted but felt, the type that's not rooted in what you have in your hands, but what you've unshackled your heart from. His words didn't originate in a vacuum. They were the result of observation. He saw how men surrounded by overflowing tables had empty minds, how men with full purses had hollow souls. The blunt truth is this: the more you own, the more you serve. The more you hold on tight, the more afraid you are to lose, and that fear is the enemy of peace. So ask yourself, how many of your resources are dedicated to keeping what you believe you need? How many moments have gone by while you're dealing with things that don't matter tomorrow? Too busy being busy, how many times have you withheld kindness, presence, just a breath of silence? The less you have, the more room you make, not only in your house, but also in your soul. In that space you can give, not out of pressure, but out of overflow. You begin to give attention, time, love, creativity. You no longer live as a collector, but as a contributor. And that is where the wholeness hides, in the giving and not the gathering. But this kind of freedom doesn't just happen. It asks something of you. It challenges you to leave behind what is familiar yet confines you. It compels you to scrutinize what you're carrying and to lay it down piece by piece, finally able to breathe. So, when you're feeling heavy, don't ask what you're missing. Seeking rewrite. Ask what you are holding that doesn't belong in your hands anymore. Ask what has filled your life that prevents you from arriving in fullness and freedom and generosity. Because ultimately, all that you give makes you who you are much more than what you have. And you can give only when you're not already owned by everything you own. To walk away from the illusion of abundance takes courage. It is not glamorous. It is not loud. It is often met with confusion, judgment, and fear. But in choosing less, you reclaim something far more valuable: your presence, your purpose, your peace. So, when the world urges you to collect, to compete, to crave, pause. Inhale deeply. Remember the man surrounded by everything yet consumed by nothing. Let him be your warning. We often chase more achievements, more possessions, more recognition. The world constantly reminds us that the higher the number, whether it's the digits in our bank account, the likes on our posts, or the titles we collect, the better we must be doing in life. Success has somehow become synonymous with volume, with excess. with how much we can claim. But in the quiet moments, those rare times when we pause and truly breathe, we come to realize that none of it really matters if we weren't truly there for it. You could spend years building a life filled with things and still feel like a stranger inside your own story. Because what gives life meaning isn't how much we've done, but how deeply we've lived. It isn't about counting the days, but about making the days count. Presence. That's the real currency of a meaningful life. To be present isn't just to exist, it's to be awake in your moments. It's feeling your child's tiny hand wrap around your finger and allowing yourself to be completely immersed in that connection. It's laughing without checking your phone. It's walking through the rain and letting it fall without rushing for shelter. It's listening when someone speaks, not to respond, but to understand. When we're truly present, time stretches. One deep conversation can feel more fulfilling than months of small talk. A day spent in silence with someone you love can carry more weight than a year of distant interaction. The quality of your presence, the energy, focus, emotion, and attention you bring into the now is what people remember. It's what leaves a mark. Think back to the people who've touched your life. Chances are it wasn't because they did a million things for you, it's because in a few moments they gave you everything. Their eyes saw you. Their words held you. Their presence embraced you. The same goes for how you live with yourself. You might be moving, achieving, checking boxes, but are you there? Are you fully alive in the life you're living? Or are you drifting through days that blur together, always looking ahead, never fully noticing where you are? It's easy to lose ourselves in the pursuit of more, but sometimes more becomes noise, and what we truly crave is the stillness, that space where we are fully, honestly present, with others, with ourselves, with life. Because when the noise fades, when the accolades are forgotten and the timelines of success disappear, what remains is the impact of your presence, the warmth you left in a room, the calm you brought to chaos, the sincerity in your words, the love you gave without needing recognition. In the end, you won't be measured by how much you owned, how far you traveled, or how many milestones you reached. You'll be remembered for how real you were, how present, how deeply you lived while you were here. So slow down, breathe, be here. Because at the end of it all, it won't be the quantity that defines your life, but the quality of your presence within it. So ask yourself this: what would happen if you let go of everything that no longer serves you? What would your life look like if it were guided by intention rather than impulse? What would it feel like to finally breathe without the weight of more pressing down on your chest? Perhaps then you would discover what has been waiting for you all along. Not in the clutter, not in the noise, but in the quiet space in between.